Hey there, this is podcast number 8 in the series of the API gateway discussion. It's been a long series, but it's been a brain dump of everything we've done in the last several months to getting as far as we've gotten with the gateway. 85% in, 15% more to go, hopefully in the next few weeks, fingers crossed. And my hope is all of these videos collectively help you do whatever it is that we are doing even faster than we were able to do, because a lot of this stuff is out there, but not collectively so, right? So this is like a concise, succinct, at least to my extent, right? A summary of everything that we've had to do. So this is, I believe it's a podcast. In the last one, I don't remember, we talked about a number of different things, but we ended the monologue there with talking about Open API format and Postman format and how the differences and the import into these different API providers, right? So once you import into these systems, now you're good to go, right? You want a process where you publish different versions of your API and add different APIs as well. Now, depending on the plans you purchase, a lot of these providers and README documentation is expensive. I believe README only gives you like 5 versions of an API, which to me it seems like a ripoff, but what can you do, right? Their documentation is the richest I've seen. Their platform when it comes to documentation, so we're going to have to absorb that cost. So the more API versions you have, the higher plans you probably need to purchase and more APIs and so on and so forth, right? So the plan is we're going to start with an API with a large number of these endpoints and add more APIs, more endpoints, existing APIs and whatnot. So there'll be more versions, there'll be more APIs. So as you get the key, your API key will not change if you continue to consume the same API. But for every API that we publish, you're going to get a unique API key that you will use. So now you could be a Snowpal API consumer that uses one API, most endpoints in one API, some endpoints in one API, most endpoints in most APIs, some endpoints in most APIs. You pick and choose, right? It's left to you. But ultimately, you're going to be, hopefully consuming these endpoints and benefiting and saving time and energy and be more productive. But that's what your end user experience is going to look like. And where you consume our API, because we're going to publish it on more than one provider, it's literally left to you. Now, when it comes to marketing and advertising an API, there is a budget as for everything else. We're going to have to focus and make some decisions on where our ad dollars are going to from an API gateway standpoint. So it's likely you might discover one gateway before the other, but that's not to say that the gateway that are the provider where you find us in is not the only provider we're going to be on. Definitely not, right? We're going to be there in a lot of different places. How much, how differently, only time has to tell, essentially, right? So I've talked about a number of providers. There's even more. Like I saw one called Open API Hub, I think. They are also very similar. They got their own differences. Some of them, the UI and the user experience as for us to publish as a provider is a bit richer than others. I have not yet taken a liking to Open API Hub, but maybe they provide some value that I haven't spotted yet that's different from the others. We have to see. But so far we have a good sense of where we want to be, and we're almost already there, right? We just ironing out the last 15% of what we need to get done. So just to summarize all of these podcasts, right, that's in the series, we've talked about the gateway, we talked about lambdas, we talked about the not architecture in detail from an AWS standpoint. That's getting into the weeds of our implementation, which I'm sure I'm going to do, but probably down the road. But we talked about API monetization, API hubs. We talked about the different providers out there. We talked about the pricing models that you can pick and choose. We talked about the core APIs that these gateways will connect to. We talked about round robining. We talked about different microservices. We talked about data massaging. We talked about proxies and non-proxies and some requests being processed in the gateway versus others being propagated to your systems, maybe other third-party systems. But does that cover everything that we've had to do? Absolutely not, right? But it covers a good chunk of it. And if you've watched all of these and you still have questions, then I actually deserve to answer those questions for you, as long as I'm convinced you watched each and every one of these. And if you haven't, that's fine. Take your time to, because there's a lot of stuff here. I think that's essentially it for now, right? There might be more, there will be more coming in future. Maybe even in the near future, maybe even 2 minutes after I end this video. But I think this is a good point to sort of wrap up this lengthy podcast that has been split into multiple videos. Don't forget to sign up on snowpal.com as an end user, download our mobile app, native mobile app from the App Store if you're an iPhone user, or Play Store if you're an Android user, or in the next few weeks, fingers crossed, you can also become a business user and start consuming our endpoints and API, and then build something as cool as Snowpal, or maybe even cooler than Snowpal. Like, more power to you, right? Use our endpoints, solve your business problems better, right? A whole lot better than you might be doing today. Thanks for watching.